everyone. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how the silk peg evolves over time. There's those of you who have asked, why is silk pegged to $1.02 or $1.05 instead of $1? And, what are the advantages of an evolving peg? So first off, let's start with a simple example. You want to draw your attention to the table over here that I've highlighted. You'll see that silk's basket consists of the Canadian dollar, the US dollar, the yen, Bitcoin, euro, and gold. And so when silk was initially instantiated and the weights were decided, essentially silk is hard-coded to a certain amount of each of the objects in the peg. So there is 0.107 Canadian dollar being tracked and 0.353 US dollars being tracked, 15.68. You can see this amount of Bitcoin right there, 0.22 euros, and that amount of gold. So this got instantiated at inception, and governance technically has the ability to evolve the basket over time. But once the basket is instantiated, these amounts are fixed. And so then the only variable from then on out that's evolving, what silk is tracking, is essentially the value of those amounts. So right now, 0.107 Canadian dollars, each Canadian dollar is worth 74 cents. Every dollar is worth $1. Every yen is worth about 0.0067 cents. Every Bitcoin is worth 26K. Every euro is worth $1.06. And gold is worth about $1,900. So what ends up happening is with these fixed amounts, we're multiplying that by the ever-changing dynamic prices for each of these. And so if you multiply the two here, you'll see this is how much is being contributed to the target peg. So with that amount multiplied by this price, 8 cents of silk's peg is coming from the Canadian dollar, 35 cents is coming from the US dollar, 11 cents is coming from the Japanese yen, 6 cents from Bitcoin, 24 cents from the euro, and 19 cents from gold. And so the target peg is simply the sum of all of these different assets and currencies, all of their different contributions in relation to the amounts being tracked to the peg. And so you'll see here, all of this adds up to $1.02, and you can see the composition over here. So the interesting thing about silk's peg, though, is that we mostly talk about it in relation to the dollar, but the same holds true thinking about it from a different currencies perspective. So you'll see over here that every Canadian dollar is worth 0.70 euros. Every US dollar is worth 0.95 euros. Every yen's worth 0.0064 euros, and it's the same exact example. And you'll see that the target peg over here is 0.98 euros. So I'm going to show you an example where, from a US dollar perspective, silk has maybe lost value, but then from a euro, someone who performs commerce in their everyday life in euros might say, "Wow, I'm glad I invested in silk." So we're very US dollar centric, but the beauty of silk is it's a global currency, and what really matters is what's your baseline currency and how does it perform in relation to silk. So we'll start with a simple example over here. So at the beginning, it's 1,000 silk with this current peg is worth $1,022 and 980.43 euros. So we'll start another column right here that says essentially what if Bitcoin goes up? Right? If the price of Bitcoin goes up, what's going to happen to the basket over here? So if example one is going to be Bitcoin goes up. So imagine here that Bitcoin skyrockets to $40,000. What happens to the peg? You'll see here that suddenly Bitcoin is now contributing 9 cents to the peg, and the peg jumped 4 cents. So that summation, assuming everything else stayed perfectly the same in relation to the dollar, you'll see that the peg here drastically jumped 4 cents. And so if you're someone holding silk and you're thinking with a dollar perspective, what you really want is you want everything on this list to go up. You want the Canadian dollar to be winning against the dollar. You want the yen to be winning against the dollar. You want Bitcoin to be increasing against the dollar. If you're a dollar holder, you're rooting for everything else in the basket to go up. Because what happens if that happens is your silk is appreciating in value, and so that 1,000 silk before is now worth $1,055. If you remember before, your 1,000 silk was worth about $1,005, $1,010. So you doing absolutely nothing, you just saw a $40 increase in your stablecoin, and this is a minor amount of volatility where it's not going to impact everyday commerce in a drastic way. But as a holder of silk, you're passively kind of hedged against the dollar using all these other parts of the basket. And now we can run through this same example in terms of the euro, right? If the euro, in relation to the euro, let's say it jumps to 3,800 euros per Bitcoin, same thing. We just went from silk's target peg being 0.98 euros to now being 1.01 euros. And so if you're a silk holder and you're a Euro-centric person, you're like, yes, everything went up against, Bitcoin increased in value in relation to euros, therefore my silk is more valuable. Super cool win. Now, let's talk about a scenario where, in essence, a euro holder is winning and a US dollar focused person is losing, right? So what could happen is the euro in relation to the dollar over here might increase in value, right? So like if this goes to, let's say, 1.10, so now we're essentially saying that the euro is gaining on the dollar. Per dollar, there's going to be more euros there, and so the peg from a European perspective just went up, and we're celebrating and we're happy. But what that would mean over here is that the euro per dollar probably decreased, right? So let's say this goes to 0.95. Now I'm less happy as a actually I think I got this example mixed up, but hopefully you can see between these two examples, like the interplay in the relationship is very interesting, where like a euro holder, if they're gaining in value as a silk holder, they're happy, but then someone who's US centric might be I think this example was correct, because the dollar value of the silk peg went down, whereas the euro holder saw the peg go up. So I actually think this example is accurate. Anyways, I hope this video is helpful. I'll link this spreadsheet below for anyone that wants to play around with trying to help visualize and understand this. But the biggest takeaway is there's a fixed amount of assets being tracked, and then from there, all the smart contracts, what they're tracking is the dynamic changes in pricing, and that's how silk's price slowly evolves over time. And what you're tracking is really based off of, are you a dollar-centric person, or are you a euro-centric person, or are you a yen-focused person? And whenever you're in one of those positions, for you to kind of win as a silk holder, you want everything to go up against your reference currency. So if I'm a dollar holder, I want the Canadian, the yen, the Bitcoin, the euro, the gold. I want all of them to perform super well against the dollar, because that means my silk is going to go up in value in terms of dollars. If I'm a euro holder, I want everyone to perform super well against the euro. So it's almost like if my baseline currency is the dollar, I'm really short the dollar if I'm holding silk. And if I'm a really big euro holder, I'm really short the euro if I'm holding silk. And this creates a really interesting forex market where people can essentially hedge their forex exposure. They can hedge against their sovereign currency by being a silk holder, and it creates a really interesting dynamic in relation to inflation and in relation to volatility. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, please comment below. I know this video it wasn't perfectly mapped out, but I think it does a good job of at least giving you an idea of how this all works. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day.